Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Author Collaborative. My guest for today is Harshita, and she's a member of a blogging community that I'm a part of, and we have recently read each other's books. And without any further ado, let me ask her to introduce herself. Hi, Harshita. Welcome to this Author Collaborative.
Hi, Manali. Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you so much for patiently waiting for me because I remember you dropped a message in July, and I was like, no, I'm traveling. I will do it after I come back. So I'm Harshita, like how Manali said, and I'm a very newbie author, is what I call myself because even though I was blogging earlier, it was mainly non-fiction and book reviews. But from 2020, I started into fiction, and last year I published my first book, Xanadu. And this year, hopefully, by the end, there should be another book. But that again, I'm going back to my roots and non-fiction. Yeah. So I did publish in between something on the community blog chatter, but I have since then taken it down, and I might be re-releasing it again on
Oh,
Amazon. Some
wonderful.
other, yeah,
Oh,
sometime
so we
later.
might have two books very soon then.
Yes.
Uh, Very
Uh,
nice. I have, because you mentioned about that book being on Block Chatter. I have read that book of yours and then I read Zenadu, and
then,
I love that particular book. I don't want to reveal too much because let's maintain the curiosity when you are going to
right,
republish it soon again.
right. Right. Yes. So there were a few niggles in that. So I thought, let me take the criticism because that particular campaign of Block Chatter works very well as a beta
Beta reader,
reading.
yes.
It's for beta reading. So I thought, let me iron out this thing. And I was on anyway working on my other book. So I said, let me focus on one book at a time and then
Correct.
do it.
Yes.
Yes. Uh, and
Okay.
let me tell you that today is actually exactly almost 1 year since my book was released in UAE. So I'm based
Oh,
in UAE. So though it was released in India on 31st, it takes some time to release in UAE. So by the time, so it was released on the UAE platform Amazon on 7th uh,
oh,
uh, of September.
oh, wow. Happy 1 year. Happy 1 year to
Thank
you.
you.
Happy 1 year to the book.
Book,
And
yeah.
uh, I have given it a whopping 4.7 on 5. So I don't need to say how much I love the book because I've already raved
Thank you
about it
so
so
much.
much in my review already. But for those of you who don't know about the book, I'm going to ask you a few questions related to it so that,
Sure.
uh, I get to know your writing process. People who are listening to us later, they can also come to know how you went about writing the book. So my first question to you is, tell us about the inspiration behind the characters. How did you come to derive that this character should be like this character should be like, there are basically three main characters whose
Right,
lives revolve around each other, and what I was particularly struck by was how individually they are so different from one another, but there is this particular binding factor. They are very lonely in their lives, they are looking for
right.
companionship, and that's how they connect with each other. So I want to know what was the inspiration behind those characters and how you went about character sketching them.
So, like I said, I'm a very newbie author. So, I am actually a trained engineer. I'm not even trained as a writer. My only qualification for being a writer is I'm a bookworm. I read a lot, and though now it has reduced a little bit with my writing, but earlier it was like 4 or 5 books a week I could finish off. So, when I started writing the book, only Anita's character was there in my mind when I started writing the book. Again, the book was not written with a conscious thought of writing a book.
Hmm.
The book was written because of A to Z. I had to write 26 posts, and I was like, try karke dekhte hain. It was literally try karke dekhte hain. But Anita's character, at least physically, Anita was very clear in my mind because she was based on somebody whom I knew. And I had actually started writing her story about 2 years back in around 2017, 2018. So I actually have that notebook where I've written,
Wow.
about this lonely lady. And then, you know, I just gave it up कि ये पता नहीं story बनेगी नहीं बनेगी, that kind of thing. But then when I started writing down for the post, I started making the drafts. I was very organized for 2021's blog chatter A to Z, and I wrote all the posts earlier. So when I sat down to write it, Anita immediately came onto the page. So that's why that first chapter was instantaneous.
Okay.
For Bhumi and Harish, the other two characters, I had to work a bit. But once I started writing them down, they immediately, clicked in my mind. This is how they look. I was very clear that this is how they look. So there was no confusion in my mind as to how they look, how they behave. Though they're not based on anybody whom I know or
Hmm.
whatever.
Hmm.
It's only Anita, and that too, that person on whom Anita is based, I don't know that person personally. I just seen her randomly, idhar
Hmm.
udhar in my school, I would see her. And I would, not really pay attention to her at that time. I was like, what, 15, 16, you wouldn't really pay attention. Like, but now when I go back, because I'm from Dehradun, so now when I go back to Dehradun and I see all the, like parents of my friends, my parents, they're old, they're alone. It's not that they're lonely, but
Hmm.
this little bit of an element of loneliness in the sense that they're alone there, that the
Hmm.
children are not there.
Correct.
And Dehradun, especially with our circle, there are quite a few like that. So somewhere that niggling loneliness, and then she got tied up together, and because she was
Hmm.
alone, she didn't have family again. That
Hmm.
actual on whom Anita is based. So I started wondering what did she feel? She used to be in that girls' convent. What did she feel? Surrounded by girls.
Hmm.
So was she lonely? Was she not lonely? It's all in your mind. You don't know that person, but thankfully that translated very well. That loneliness
Yes.
translated very well in the book somehow. So that's all.
Yeah, and actually it did. And Anita's character stands out for me particularly because I could find a bit of my parents in her character, because you know certain people around you who are like that, who are craving for company in their senior ages, and you kind of feel empathy for them also. So
Right,
Anita's
right.
character was like heartbreaking, actually, if I can use the correct word. It was heartbreaking to read
Yes,
about her story. The other two
yes.
characters were young, so you always had hope कि चलो कुछ ना
कुछ
कोई
ना
तो
हो
हमको मिल
जाएगा,
ही
हो
जाएगा.
जाएगा. हाँ. Yes, but Anita predominantly was lonely throughout her life. So you
Yes.
feel really sad for
Yeah.
her.
So, which
Yeah.
brings me to my next question. I think you have basically answered it, but I still want to know who is your favorite character out of the three main ones, and who is your least favorite, and also why.
Favorite of Yeah, favorite of course is Anita. Like I said, because Anita was very clear in my mind right from the beginning. So,
Hmm.
uh, so like somehow I don't know why, but I do relate to Anita quite a bit. It's not that I'm lonely or whatever, though I do prefer my solitude quite a bit. I do prefer, time when I was reading your bio. I think you are also like that. For some time in the day, you want to be alone. You don't want to
Yes.
be, trouble. So I have a similar thing. So there are certain, periods of time when I do want to be alone and I do want to be this thing. So, but I'm not lonely.
Hmm.
But like you said, like, but still, Anita kind of, is somehow very familiar to me. Uh, so I relate to her quite a bit. Maybe it is my inherent fear that I might be left alone or whatever. I don't know. It's just that I feel very closely with Anita.
Hmm.
Least favorite, least favorite has to be Arjun because he's actually a very
He is a
he's a
negative
horrible
character.
fellow.
Yeah.
He's a
Yeah.
very horrible fellow.
Yeah.
So, and the point is, he's not horrible per se, but it's just that he's a
Exactly.
weak
He takes
human.
it. Yeah.
He's a
The
weak
way he
human.
takes out his frustration.
Uh, he's a weak human. Though I did not want to make him totally black, but yes. See, for me as a writer, it's very difficult for me to write any. Maybe because I have personally not experienced lots of negativity around me. So for me to write anything negative is very difficult.
Yeah.
So, and even though Arjun doesn't really there's nothing in the book which is really very dark or anything, but there's still that bit is not very comfortable
Hmm.
for me, or at least it
Hmm.
wasn't. Now I'm still more comfortable. I have written recently a pretty dark story, but at that point of time when I just started off, it was very difficult for me to write Arjun. And but then you do need that, you do need that element of twist, or you do need that element of darkness to move the story forward.
Yeah.
Because if he had been good, then the story wouldn't have been
Yeah.
moved forward. That
Yeah.
is also there.
That's there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if Arjun hadn't behaved in the way that he did, Bhumi would not have, you know,
Yeah.
made those choices, and life probably wouldn't have come full circle for her.
Yes, because I did try that track and I did try, making Arjun very nice and saccharine sweet. And then I was like, this is just not working.
Yeah.
Because then Bhumi does not have any motive to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the that was the whole point. And I knew the ending. When I started writing, I knew what the ending has to be. So
Hmm.
that I was very clear that it will not be a sad book.
Yeah.
That I was very sure that it will not be. Maybe in between it might bits and pieces there it's sad, but the ending will not be sad. I was very clear about that.
Yeah. And that does come across. You feel so positive after you have read the last page of the book. You're like, ah, so satisfying. Like
Thank you
a
so much.
sigh escapes your mouth. Like that.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Yeah. No, because
Yes.
I think that's a trap we sometimes writers fall into, like to especially for few of us who write flash fiction, because we are so used to shocking the others that sooner
Hmm.
or later it descends into the dark and negative territory. And I was sure for this book at least I didn't want to leave it at that
Hmm.
place. So
Yeah.
I do have some stories which are very dark, and people have told me, you please start putting trigger warnings in your stories.
Yes, actually, now that you say it, I do recall reading some stories with a dark ending in the other book that we are talking about.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So that's why I have put them separately. Like, these are trigger warning stories. Please get them.
Yes,
Yes,
Harshita, since we have spoken so much at length about the book, now what I want you to do is show us the book cover and then read out one of
yes.
a few passages from the book.
Yeah. So this is the cover, and
Beautiful,
I was
beautiful.
actually
Like,
very happy with the cover
seriously.
because it got out the hills.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if I have mentioned it in my review or not, but the cover is something so amazing. Like, you want to leap into that picture and go there. I already mentioned this about your writing, I think, because it's very, very similar to Ruskin Bond style of writing. You want
Thank
to
you so
visit
much.
the
I think
hills.
जो भी देहरादून वाला है वो सुन ले रस्किन बॉन्ड का नाम, वो वैसे ही खुश हो जाता है.
But it does have that kind of a vibe, and especially Bhumi's past, where she was living such a simple life with her parents,
Right.
that is very inspiring.
Thank you so much.
That's like a dream for people who are very close to nature and who are nature lovers. So that was
Right.
really inspiring.
But then, see, it's not far from reality, because there are quite a few people still living in the hills, those who are left behind, who still live a
Correct.
life like that.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
that's what.
Yes. Let's
Okay,
dig into
so
it.
I'll read. So this actually, usually when I do a reading, I do not pick this passage, but I'm picking this passage because there is this fellow blogger called Pratibha, and she had read out this passage in during my online book launch, and she had
Oh
said
wow.
this
Okay.
is the actual turning point according to her. So I said, okay, let me read this, which is the actual turning point of the book this time. So it's in between. So the Harish's father, Makhan, has gone to Colonel to return her back, and now Makhan is going to come back. So that's the context behind. Suddenly, the colonel spoke. You have shown honesty and integrity by returning not only the bag, but also the money. For your honesty, I would like to reward you. You have a choice. You can either take a lump sum of money as a reward, or if you want, I can arrange for a steady job with steady income for you. The income for the job will be sufficient for your needs, though it will not be too much. Plus, the job will be permanent. You will not be dismissed until you retire. Makhan thought of Harish and the dreams he had for him. He did not take long to reach a decision. A job, he replied. Pleased by his answer, the colonel got him employed as an orderly in the army. He would receive a decent salary, lodging, and even a pension after retirement. So impressed was the colonel by Makhan's desire for Harish to conquer the world that he made Makhan another offer. An offer which broke Makhan's heart, but one which he agreed to without hesitation. With Makhan's approval, Harish would join a prestigious boarding school for army children. Coming to the end of his tale, Makhan told Anita that he and Harish would be leaving by the end of the month. Thus, only a few months after Harish and Sheru had come running into the orchard and scaring Bhumi, Anita waved goodbye to Harish, Makhan, and Sheru. As they disappeared down the drive, Anita turned back into the house with a weary step. After a few moments of companionship, she was left alone again.
Yeah, that was really heartbreaking. You especially feel bad for Anita because she had that kind of warmth for a while, and it looked promising for her. Yeah, her life looked better, and then it was
Her life looked better.
suddenly taken away.
Yeah, it's like you're just so close to the reward and you don't get the
Yeah,
reward. It's like
yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for reading out
Thank
that part. That actually is the turning point because you are sad for all the three characters. They are because they are taking their individual journeys again,
individual
and
journeys again.
you don't know what changes life is going to bring to them.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Thank
Thank you so much, Harshita, for reading
you.
it out. Now I come to the most interesting and my favorite part of the session, which is the rapid fire round. Are you ready?
Yes. Yeah, yes.
Uh, my first question to you is again related to the book that we are discussing, which is if you had to change, add, or modify one thing in this particular story about the three characters, what would it be and why?
I don't think I would change anything.
Yeah,
Maybe get
I
it
also think so.
edited again, but technically, yes, maybe get it edited again. But story wise, I don't think I want to change anything.
Yeah, definitely. It's perfect the way it is. Definitely.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
My
Yeah.
next question is a character from your stories that you have named after someone in real.
Uh, so named after someone, Bhumi actually, though it was not a conscious decision. So I had a friend named Bhumika whom we used to call Bhumi. But the reason why Bhumi in the book is called Bhumi is because I had to write something with the letter B. So
Huh. Okay.
so that's why her actual name is something else. But
Oh,
her
this is
nickname is
interesting.
Bhumi. Yeah. So
Okay.
in the book, her actual name is something else, but the nickname is Bhumi. So that was the
Yeah.
reason.
Oh,
So that's why
that's a good
that's why
bit
it
of
just
trivia.
matched. Yeah, it just matched.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I know how life as an expert is for me, but I also want to know your viewpoint. So I want you to tell me the one good thing and the one bad thing about life as an expert.
One good thing, there's no stress of, the daily life. So there's no stress of commuting. There's no stress of that basically pani sadak. You don't have that stress.
Hmm.
One very bad thing is very far from home.
Uh, yeah. Actually, I was just talking about this to someone because I recently visited India and I've just been back a few weeks
Right.
ago. And the one thing that I was missing instantly was the ability to order food at any time of the day. I was missing Swiggy and Zomato so much because here in Europe, we don't have many apps to do that, and we don't even
Okay.
have many restaurants beyond the, you know, uh, 2 or 3 kilometer radius. वैसे ही city
Okay.
छोटा है and
Uh,
restaurants भी कम है.
uh,
Even in that, you are reducing the radius, so there are not many options
no, then
available.
you need to come to Dubai because Dubai you can order food at any point of time,
Oh,
anything, and you get cuisines from all over the world.
wonderful!
Vada
Yeah.
pav, dabeli, anything you
Oh,
want, you'll
wow.
get. Kulche, bhature, anything you'll get. You'll get pasta, pizza, everything you'll get. So that way,
Oh.
Dubai is amazing. But
Definitely.
it is still not home. Home.
Yeah,
It is still
true,
Dubai.
true, true.
Yeah.
Okay, my next question. The last place you visited is where your next story unfolds. Now, we know, of course, you tell us the place also, but I want you to make up a probable plot and title also for the story.
Okay, so I had this question. Now the point is, now I visited quite a few places in the last. So the last was Dehradun.
Hmm.
But before that, I had visited Kashmir. So immediately Kashmir came into my mind. And surprisingly, I have written a post on Kashmir, though it is not a story. Though my husband was telling me the other day to write a story on Kashmir, but I have written a non-fiction one. And I have the title is also there, The Chinar and the Barbed Wire.
Wow.
So now I think I do need to write a plot for it. So I still haven't done the plot, but knowing me, it will most probably turn out to be a love story.
Oh, wow. Beautiful. Please write this, Harshita. I would
Thank
definitely read
you
it.
so much. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Yeah.
my last question to you in the rapid fire round is because it becomes difficult for me to choose. So I know I'm putting you in a fix with this question, but I have to ask poetry or stories? Pick one as a reader and as a writer.
I would pick stories both. I like poetry, but I like poetry in small doses. I don't write poetry. I find people who write poetry amazing because I just can't get the flow of the words right. There's something or the other always missing. And I poetry is difficult to read also, according to me,
Hmm.
because to understand poetry, you need a certain level of you need certain level of mental strength. You need that kind of focus to understand, because poetry, like if I read Xanadu, it's very straightforward. There are certain subplots, but there's not much hidden beneath the
Hmm.
words. Poetry, you will always have something hidden beneath the words, and if you don't get it at the first time, then it is difficult for the reader. So that is why poetry is not everybody's cup of tea. And though I am better now at reading poetry, because I think because of all of you around me, the whole group around me. So you are there, Sonia Dogra is there, Aarti Jain is there. So beautiful poets. So, and find myself really inspired by all of you. So sometimes
Oh,
one
sweet.
off
Thank you.
I dabble myself, but I don't think it's my cup of tea. At least not writing. Reading wise, I would not instinctively pick it up, but yes, I do read it on and off.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm.
So it was not as difficult to pick as I thought it would be.
Yes, no, no, no. I'm a storyteller through and through.
Okay, Harshita, that brings me to the end of my questions I had related to your book
Mm.
and related to your writing. So the floor is all yours.
Floor is all mine, so I would like to read you to read your poem first, and
Yes,
then let's move on to the questions and answers, so to say.
yes, yes. So let us first tell the people what we are talking about
Right.
before I dive into the poetry. So this is a book we are talking about. It's my recent book, latest book, A Piece of Your Mind for Peace of Mind. It's a collection of poems, and it has 45 poems, each focusing on a different emotion that we as humans, feel at different points in our lives. And Harshita has written a very beautiful review about the book. So if you are not convinced and you feel like I am pushing it too much, you can read her review before deciding if you want to go for the book or not. And I am now going to read out one poem from the book. It is titled Home Sweet Home. Home, where you can speak unfiltered. Home, where your heart beats uninhibited. Home, where your smile is unrestrained. Home, where your freedom is unchained. Home, where your happiness is unbound. Home, rarely a place. Home, sometimes a person. Home, mostly a feeling of being complete. Home, never confined. Home, by all uniquely defined.
It's so beautiful. And I really like the part where it says sometimes it can be a person. And I think that is the truest, no? It's more than four walls and a roof, yes.
Correct,
Home is
correct.
always more than home. And you never know, I'm planning to write a blog on home, and I might just quote you in that
Oh
then.
wow, thank you. That would be wow. My day would be made. I would be like, wow.
Okay, let's move on to a question and answers. Your title is very interesting. A piece of, a piece of your mind for peace of mind. So, how did you, come about with the title, with this whole concept of the book, and why only poetry did you choose for this?
Okay, so
Because it's
let me
pretty,
answer it in bits
huh,
and parts. The first part of your question, the title. Initially, the book was named something else, and I was almost going to go ahead with it. But then, just on the spur of that moment, I was like, let me Google it. Maybe something like this already exists. What do I know? I just
right,
wanted to make sure I'm not copying someone. And incidentally, it so happened that there was a similar book titled in the same
what
manner
you,
that I had in mind. So I was like, no, I can't go with this. It's like dagabazi to not only my book but the book that is already out there also, and I didn't
right.
want that. It has to be something unique. So then I already had the concept of the book clear in my head that I am talking about mental health and I want people to feel acceptance. That's how the phrase peace of mind came into my mind, and I was like, I want this to be a part of the title, if not the entire title at least. While I had that part confirmed, I was like, let's make it more interesting, because my book titles are generally tongue twisters or something which
Right.
is very, catchy. So I was like, let's do something like this, a piece of your mind for peace of mind, because it becomes another tongue twister and it makes it more interesting and people will be able to recall it immediately.
Right.
And it also, of course, it justifies the format of the book and the theme of the book. So I was like, chalo, ho gaya. That's how the book
Right.
title came about. And as about the poetry, how it came about, because I have been someone who has written poetry for the longest form of time, and it's the genre that I'm most confident about when it comes to my
Hmm.
writing. So I was like, let's not take a chance. If I'm doing something related to mental health, it has to be something, in which I am most confident and comfortable with. That's how I chose to go with poetry.
Yeah, and I actually like, यूजुअली व्हाट हैपेंस विद पोएट्री इज कि इतने ज्यादा मेटाफर हो जाते हैं, इतना ज्यादा तुम्हें मतलब बोल कुछ रहे हो, करना कुछ है, यू नो दैट काइंड ऑफ थिंग, बट योर पोएट्री आई फाउंड वाज वेरी, I wouldn't say simple, it was relatable.
Hmm.
It was very relatable. So that is, I've written that in my review also. Like you're reading, like you said, home, or if you read, Mirror, Mirror, and especially for Mirror, Mirror, or it's just like, yes, this happens with me. You know, you're confident in something and you're doing, and then somebody says something, and then
uh,
that first doubt comes, and then the second doubt comes, and the third doubt comes. You know, and then you have to build yourself up again. So I think that is, so what if you're saying you're confident, is because you're good in poetry, you're very
Thank you
good
so
in
much.
poetry. That's it. So my next question is, like, you've written 45 of them, so
Hmm.
out of these, which was the most difficult poem for you to write, and why?
I think old friend, hello old friend, was the most difficult for me. Not in terms because I had a challenge while writing it, or the thoughts didn't come to me or anything like that. It was difficult purely because I had to recall a lot of difficult points in my life while I was writing it. I had to list down all those things that that those were dark times, and I will always remember those moments in my life where I was the most vulnerable and weakest. And I was almost in tears by the end of it. I was like, my God, I have gone through so much. And now I have come at a point where it doesn't affect me anymore. But I was just recalling that, previous Manali, how she must have faced those situations, how she came out of it. And that was kind of difficult to remember and uh, write down about. Another poem was Mirror, Mirror, because I am somebody who's very affected by people. Affected when people comment about my looks, my clothes, or anything related to my physical appearance. I have grown out of it a bit, but every now and then it still affects me.
Is still there,
However,
right?
thick-skinned you become. If somebody says that that color doesn't suit you, or you shouldn't have worn this, it does affect you. We can
Right.
try to ignore it, but at some level, it does affect us.
Right. Yeah, that's what I said. That was so relatable, like you can give yourself a boost up, ki, nahi, I am not affected. But somewhere or the other, that niggle will be there.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then that niggle, like, that's what I think I've written in my review also. It's like you've not you've not talked about depression per se. You've not talked about, you've not talked about the big things, but you've talked about the small things which little by little, they start affecting us. They affect our self confidence, they
Hmm.
affect our self esteem, and I think that creates more of a problem, because an outwardly genuinely healthy person
Hmm.
can have mental health issues because of
Exactly.
that. Like even
Yes.
for Hello Old Friend was like, seriously, you're just echoing my thoughts when I was reading this. I'm like, ये तो होता है ना, मतलब this anxiety is
Yeah.
actually our old friend. Yes, they are our old friends, and okay, maybe I will not have a panic attack or an
Hmm.
anxiety attack, but at least I will have that anxiety, or to
Yeah.
whether I can do it or not. And plus, I
Exactly.
think being as writers, we all suffer from that imposter syndrome.
Yeah. That
That
is
we are
to
good
there
enough,
only.
we
I
are
no
good enough,
escape.
अभी तक रिव्यू नहीं आए, क्यों नहीं आए,
Yeah.
कब आएंगे, अच्छी नहीं है क्या किताब, that
Yes.
kind of. So people who are watching this, please review our books if you read.
Yes.
Okay, now to Manali's favorite part and my favorite part also, because I Really racked my brains on this. Okay, you've written 5 books till now. Which is your favorite?
I have been asked this question many times over the years, and I have smartly decided to answer with the latest one because that means the most attention. Yeah.
Yes. Smart. That's very smart. Okay, writing may quirk. Do you have any quirks while you're writing?
So I do not like any noise around me, and conversations are a big no-no. So if I am in a crowded place, I put in my earphones, or if I am at home, I create a ruckus about everyone, not being quiet enough.
Okay. That's smart enough. Okay. So if you were not an author, blogger, book reviewer, what would Manali be?
Bookstore owner, hands down. Books पढ़ो, books बेचो.
Books which so there's no Manali without the books.
No.
Great. That's great. Okay. Which is the most overhyped book in your opinion? Everybody asks what is your favorite book. I would ask about the overhyped book.
I think The Alchemist, uh, because probably it didn't connect to me the way it did to so many readers, and I
Readers.
really don't understand why it is so hyped. I
Yes.
I miss to understand. I mean, it's a good book, okay, yeah, but it's not wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's like, see, every book speaks differently to every reader.
yeah,
Yes. It's not necessary that it should be your favorite
yeah,
also. Yes.
exactly.
Okay. The last one is a fun question because I think I did very good job in that. Okay. So,
Okay.
Narnia, Hogwarts, Westeros, or Middle Earth? Which would you pick and why?
Hands down Hogwarts, because everyone who knows me well and everyone who has read my works knows I'm a Potterhead, and like there is always at least one reference to Harry Potter in my books. So I am kind of
Mischief
obsessed.
managed. Mischief
Yes.
managed.
I cannot stop
I
myself from
love that
having that
bit.
reference. When I was writing the poem, I was like, this is a naughty child and it is behaving like this. It has to be the twins. It has to have a reference
This
here.
is a fun. It was actually a very good poem. It was. I really enjoyed reading that poem. It was a really fun poem. It was.
So happy to hear that. Uh, I think we are coming to the end of
Yeah.
our 40 minutes. So
Whatever. 40 minutes.
before they cut us off, let's say bye bye. Thank you, Harshita, for
Bye
joining
bye.
me.
Bye bye. Thank you so much, Manali. I had so much fun
Same here, same
doing
here.
this, and I wish we could have done Insta Live, but
I know. That would have been more fun because I know a certain regular audience who joins and they